Well, welcome to MissouriNet.com. On this Google Hangout, you just see me, but we're going to hear the voice of UCF football, and that is Marc Daniels, who joins us to give us some insight on the Knights. Marc, thank you for letting me give you a call.
Well, good to have an opportunity to talk about what should be a good football game.
First of all, how was the trip to Ireland?
Long, but no, it was great. We had a chance to get over Wednesday morning, left Tuesday night, and enjoyed the days there before the game. Wonderful country. The people there really embraced the football game, and a wonderful stadium, and a great atmosphere, more than 50,000, and didn't get the outcome that we wanted. But as far as the trip itself and the hospitality, it was like a major bowl game. It really was. They did a great job for both teams, and a lot of activities for the fans to enjoy, and just a great experience. And I know our players were grateful to have an opportunity to play in an environment and in a game like that.
Well, certainly a great football game to watch, and like you said, you came up a little bit on the short end there. But boy, what a battle, and what a way to come back in the second half. And a lot of that had to do with your quarterback, Justin Holman. Can you talk a little bit about him?
Yeah, Justin's a guy that was highly recruited by UCF and a few other schools. He had some opportunities of SEC programs as well. He opted to come to UCF, and then kind of found himself the backup quarterback to Blake Bortles last year, which was really not the original plan. The number 2 quarterback opted to leave the program, and Justin became the number 2 guy. Didn't play much because obviously Blake played well, but 6'4", 235. Great athlete and really strong arm. And when we left the spring, Justin was the number 1 quarterback. George O'Leary, though, wasn't set to say, look, it's a clear number 1. He wanted some competition going into the fall. And to be honest, Justin really didn't have a great camp. He struggled and never kind of took the reins of that offense and made it an easy choice. And so when UCF opted to start Pete DeNovo at quarterback, some people kind of wondered, well, okay, let's see what Pete can do, but why? And when Pete didn't play well and Justin came in, many people said, well, see, UCF made a mistake. But in fairness, if anybody saw practice for the 3 weeks of August, Justin really didn't earn the job. Now, he came in and played well against Penn State. He showed his arm strength. He showed his ability to run 3 drives of more than 70 yards that led to scores. And if he can play like that, then UCF certainly has a talent that still has a lot to learn but has tremendous potential. But, he gave UCF the spark they needed. Now he's had, it'll be 2 weeks to prepare for a very good opponent. And we'll see how he handles the environment of going on the road. He needs some help, but the thing that UCF does have is they have a number of weapons that can make a quarterback's job easier, and he has to rely on those weapons in any football game.
Well, and that's what I was going to talk to you about, because according to Phil Steele at the beginning of the season, his publication ranks UCF wide receivers as the 9th best group in all the nation. Now, that's pretty impressive. Talk about
we should have been higher. No.
Hey, don't get greedy.
No. Based on players that UCF had coming back, and then a transfer they added from UAB who had 140 plus catches. They were the most experienced receiving core in the country based on, again, receptions coming back. And that is a big strength of UCF. Rennell Hall, who you can make a case as UCF's best receiver. He didn't play in the Penn State game. He had an elbow injury, and he didn't play, and he's important not just in being a pass catcher. They use him to run the ball. He's a tremendous blocker, and he's a great kick returner. So he's back and healthy. J.J. Wharton, people might remember for the that he made against Temple last year, J.J.'s one of the top 10 all-time receivers at UCF in receptions, and Rashad Herman's a 6'3", 230-pound wide receiver. They've got some weapons. Josh Reed's been in the program for 4 years. So that's why any quarterback really has an opportunity to allow their game to grow. You get the ball in the hands of those wide receivers, and each offers something different. And, UCF's had a nice stretch of developing wide receivers in recent years, and they do a great job blocking as well. You can't play at UCF if you don't block, and I think that's the trait for any good wide receiving core. And when healthy, they can be effective, providing your line obviously does some protecting as well.
We're talking with Marc Daniels, the voice of UCF football. What does the offensive line look like? Because I know a lot of Mizzou fans will be interested to see how defensive end Marcus Golden and that D-line do, because that's been the strength of Missouri's defense the first 2 games.
Well, there's 3 new starters in the offensive line for UCF, and it's interesting. Last year, if you'd have asked me in August, and maybe even the same time, even after a game, I would have said, well, I don't know. I mean, it's a line that has some experience, but I don't know how good they're going to be. And by the end of the year, it absolutely was one of the strengths of UCF, was their offensive line, the great job they did in protecting Blake and opening up holes. It's a line, again, that has a returning center and a left tackle that I think are very good and among the best in our conference, the American. It's got a left guard that has sparingly played in spot starts and two new starters on the right side of the line. And they've got to learn. The first football game against Penn State, they struggled at times in opening up holes to run the football. Now, UCF's number one back, William Stanback, did not play in that game because of an injury. He will play in the game against Missouri, but it's a line that's going to have to grow up quickly because of the quality opponents like Missouri. We've got BYU in a few weeks, so they're going to be challenged, and that's also part of it. People just can't assume, oh, Blake's gone, new quarterback, same success. A lot of factors come into play. No question they'll be challenged. UCF has great respect for the two defensive ends and the entire defense of Missouri, but they know that you better be able to keep those guys off your quarterback. Otherwise, it could be a long day.
Now, your defense loaded on this side of the ball. 24 players returned from last year, 9 starters. Very stingy against the run. You held Penn State to 57 yards.
Did a good job run defense. George O'Leary would tell you that the coverage and pass rush, and I'm using his words, quote, were awful. It has to get better. And you are right, UCF brings back just about everybody from last year's defense, and they brought their entire secondary back. Everybody that backed them up is back. Same deal with the linebackers. They've added a junior college player that's going to start at outside linebacker. But they struggled to get a pass rush on Penn State. Christian Hackenberg's a good quarterback, but he had 4 or 5 seconds at times, and that was a problem. And then coverage had a couple of breakdowns. They had, a corner that's very good, bit on a route. The kid went the distance 79 yards, and so they've got to do a better job of a pass rush and a better job covering. Go back to last year, they did a very good job for the most part without a pass rush. UCF lost a ton of its defensive pass rush last year to injury, and that's where that back seven really did a solid job. But you have to, in college football, any level of football, you've got to get some pressure on a quarterback. For UCF, again, you can't let Missouri's quarterback stand back there with the weapons that he's got that can make for a long afternoon. But there is experience back there. They think that they made some corrections that happened in the Penn State football game and feel as if they'll have a better game plan and execution on Saturday.
Mark, I know it almost sounds like a cliche, but it's really going to come down to line play. You certainly have to block for your quarterback and put some pressure on Mizzou's. That's probably the key to this game, correct?
It is, and I thought it was in Penn State, too. I mean, Penn State, I thought, won the battle in short yardage situations for UCF offensively versus Penn State defense. UCF had first and goal before and didn't score one time, and tried to run on the first 3 downs and a couple of other short yardage situations, and then how about UCF's pass rush that, at times was non-existent. So, I mean, it sounds kind of simple, but it sometimes comes down to that. Look, go back to the game that UCF and Missouri played a couple of years ago. Missouri gets a big special teams play, another big offensive play, and they just made a few more of those plays that UCF did and, got the victory. And sometimes, we can look at stat sheets, and it could be a stop on 3rd and short that leads to a punt that was the difference in the game. And that's why every play is special in its own way. But I do think that the battle in the trenches is important. And look, UCF, I think, has made progress in that years ago. It's my 20th year calling UCF. There's never been a problem finding quarterbacks, running backs, and wide receivers, where I think UCF has made great strides in being able to compete with programs like Missouri and some of these larger conferences that have improved the quality of linemen. As you know, you can look at a depth chart and see a left tackle that maybe 6'5", 330, but if he's just big and slow and can't block, who cares once the game goes? The quality of linemen that UCF has brought in has gotten a lot better. It's allowed it to compete more in games like this. And while the Fiesta Bowl is, certainly a game we hang our hat on, I think if a football observer looked at that, UCF won both lines in that game. I mean, there are plenty of guys that could catch the ball and run the ball on both sides there, but UCF was the more physical team defensively and also in line play, and a big reason why they won.
Well, Marc Daniels certainly knows what he's talking about. Looking at the game notes, UCF have combined 4-2 in their last 6 games against teams from the SEC, ACC, Big Ten, and Big 12, and they've won 2 straight against top 25 opponents, and they'll get their next crack here against number 20, Mizzou, on Saturday at 11 a.m. from Faurot Field. Marc Daniels, the longtime voice, I guess we can say that, huh? Longtime voice of UCF football. 20 years, congratulations.
Well, thank you. This means I'm old. That's all it does.
Well, hey, we appreciate your time again. Thank you for letting us call, and we look forward to seeing you guys here on Saturday.
Look forward to it. Thank you much. Take care now.
All right, and thank you for watching us here at MissouriNet.com.